There's a problem that can never
Flinging
be solved.
tears straight down from the eyes, like in the movies. Say what? All of you watch me
Would they approve my
pass
method?
by, pacing back and forth, exhausting myself for my own gratification. To no one, embarrassing my grounding, and then I found them missing the floating potential of that reorganizing that out of the left right foot. I'll stay out listen to listen without the dummy enough to question. Feeling like a tick, picking it all up again. So much like a tick, just to pick it up again. Everything is so tight, so tight. Everything is so done, so done.
When the sun goes down, echo out from the pages. I pop the balloon you sailed across and tip from the bottom of dreams from the inside of the whale. I start the illusion that escape. You didn't have to run, stop, run. Just keep me where I was. You knew how good it felt to be home. Very soon we'll be erased. Forget how the contents we used, then realize that, oh God, you now aware I was in love with you. You didn't have to run, stop, run. Just keep me where I was.
What's up, everyone? We're back. Episode 6, 2 Sci Radio.
Welcome.
Yeah, me and Dan.
Just us today, but
Yeah,
It's all right.
we're planning on a little something in
Yeah.
the, next week. So yeah, that was Kilo Kish, Frustrations and Solutions, and then you good since that one was yours.
the second one was by Crosses, which the frontman is Chino Moreno from Deftones, and we were just talking. We don't know who the other people in the band are, but Chino Moreno is GOAT.
Yeah.
He's got an iconic voice, and he's had such an impact in like his genre of music, especially with like collaborations and stuff. He's just a super cool dude. I'm not like a big Deftones fan, but when this project came out, I was all about it. The whole album was so good. It was just a matter of like closing my eyes and picking a song from this album to put on.
Yeah,
But
which is exactly what you said when we
Yeah.
picked. Yeah.
I think I was trying to think earlier today. I think I don't remember if it was you or Jeff was the one who told me about that album when it came out. I think it might have been you.
Yeah, it
because-
might have been me because my mom is like a huge Deftones fan, and just through that I kind of was exposed to everything. I think when it came out, we might have talked about it, or I might have seen it and asked her if she like heard it.
Well, it's good you bring that up because that's actually one thing I want to talk about. I texted you about that earlier today. I was like, man, you always like talk about how your mom like showed you random shit and like the stuff. I'll like mention something that I like and you'll be like, oh yeah, my mom likes that too.
Well, my mom and my dad, just in case my dad listens. But yeah, no, I know what you mean in terms
Well,
of this conversation on
'cause
Deftones.
It made me think because I remember we talked about it in one of the previous episodes about like stuff that my like roots of the stuff I like with my dad and stuff, him showing me certain things and my brother and stuff. And then I started thinking about like, well, I wonder what it was like for other people. And then, like I said, I remember you always usually bringing it up about your parents too. And then,
Yeah.
so
I guess not a lot of people have had their parents take them to an Iron Maiden concert when they were in like 5th, 6th grade, and not a lot of people went to a Marilyn Manson concert with their mom.
yeah, I was gonna say
And mind you, it was not my idea. So
that is so badass.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
So no, I mean that I would never like take it away from them. That's probably if not the only reason, the biggest reason why I'm even into music and why I even have a diverse taste in music is because of them. So yeah,
My mom took me to a Sugar Ray concert once at the Allentown Fair. That was, I mean, like, my mom likes, she's a huge Aerosmith fan, and like Sheryl Crow and Maroon 5. I'm not saying that's like a bad music taste, but like it's a typical mom
yeah,
music taste. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
no, I mean I think that it was just something that was like normal for me to be exposed to like a ton of different kinds of music, and I even wrote about it on like this extra credit thing that like my parents met through music, so it only makes sense for me to like do that, so yeah, they
That's
definitely both had a part in my whole music taste and everything. But yeah, I mean the first song, just to give some background, because this is actually one of the first times I like really listened through her album and like gave everything a thorough listen. Her name's Kilo Kish. That song's called Frustrations and Solutions on the Reflections in Real Time album. It just came out recently, but she has a pretty interesting story, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. And since we're both in college, I guess we could kind of relate and like reflect on how kind of cool this is. So she was really into design, I guess, and got accepted into a school and whatever. And she completed it and everything. But when she was, down wherever she was living, her roommates set up like a home studio, and they started the Cool Cats Club. And I guess it was just like a project they had. And since then, she's worked with Vince Staples, A$AP Rocky, Childish Gambino, The Internet, and a whole bunch of musicians. she has a really interesting style. I think kind of resembling Vince in like no part of the instrumentals is like typical, which I think is like a really interesting thing about them is that it's difficult enough to make a song, but much, much harder to make a song on things that aren't like normal to you, you know, and especially, you know, in this case, instrumentals, like, I don't know, both of them, you could tell through, and they, I think, are friends. I think they went on tour together, and they've obviously done songs together. On both of Vince's albums, I think she's on it. But none of the instrumentals are like regular, you know, hip hop beats or, you know, R&B beats or whatever the song kind of is. They're not normal, don't have normal instrumentation throughout. Like it's very odd sounds, odd patterns and everything. But somehow she makes it work, and I think that that's something that's like very unique about her that I like. And when I listen through the album, I know you probably haven't yet, but when you do, you'll kind of see the resemblance between her and Vince in that aspect, and probably a lot of other people that I'm, you know, forgetting to mention. I'm not trying to like pair them together.
Yeah.
But anyways, the whole point was the college thing, and I guess that's in a way what we're doing right now. Just like had a crazy idea and just kind of, I'm not saying that we're gonna end up doing anything, you know, like I'm not saying, oh, like now I see the path we're gonna take. No, I'm just saying that like crazy ideas lead to like, you know, cool things.
So she like went to school for some.
Yeah,
So she's doing something now that is not related to what she went to school for.
Basically, I'm sure she still does the design stuff because I watched an interview with her, and she, I think, still does design stuff. It's just the music thing kind of worked out for her.
That's interesting. I feel like that happens more than people think. Like,
Yeah,
in retrospect, like people that are famous now, you look at like their alma mater and stuff, like where they went to school and what for.
yeah.
Chances were it was like something
Well, I
pretty
mean,
random.
look at us, and again, not saying this is anything, but like, who would have thought that like a biology student, right, and a business management student would be talking about music on,
Yeah, I
you
guess.
know? So it is kind of interesting, like where creativity could lead you.
Yeah,
I guess.
interesting example. I was actually just reading this today. The guy who created the show Mad Men,
Okay.
by the way, one of the greatest shows of all time. I think his name is Matthew Weiner. He went to school somewhere in California, but he was a physics major.
Okay.
And then I don't know like how one thing led to another, but I mean, then he started and went on to make like one of the most popular shows ever.
Yeah.
Physics major.
And you wonder what it was that like.
Yeah, like when
Yeah.
was that moment when like something ticks in your head and you're like, nope, I'm gonna do this instead. Mm-hmm. You like it could be like a hobby thing that was like in the background in your life the whole time growing up, or maybe like something happened along the way that just kind of flipped the switch in your brain. That's the interesting part about it.
Yeah.
It's probably different for everybody.
I think that a lot of times, like in life, you kind of get rushed. Sort of like even myself, and I'm sure maybe you too. Like, there's a lot of things you wish you probably could have done and like went into, but with like how things go, it's like you get into university and you just kind of go there, and you kind of figure it out there, and then you end up getting a job, you know, possibly through something you don't want to do.
It's like when your life is in full swing. How much room can you make for like more than one hobby?
Mm-hmm. And how much time do you have to like express the creativity? Because I
Yeah.
think everyone has like relatively, you know, some sort of amount of creativity.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like if they can,
Mm-hmm.
if they can, and if they do have time to apply that to something. So, and that's sort of something that I noticed in the David Lynch thing we were watching. Like, even though he went to university and even though, you know, he had a kid and everything, he always like found time to do something creative. Mm-hmm. And I think that's sort of what separates, you know, obviously the greats like him and people who maybe don't ever do anything or, you know, don't do anything super big. It's just like dedicating that time
Yeah.
and just taking chances. But I guess it's kind of off topic of where we even started.
that's all right.
But
The thing we were talking about is the documentary that came out last year
yeah, you might
about
as well.
David Lynch. It's called The Art Life.
And it's really good.
Yeah, it's like an hour and a half long. It's just like following him on like a a normal day in his life in Hollywood, and
it's crazy the shit he is like able to do now. Like, I'm sure both of us would probably get bored just because that, you know, painting and whatever isn't like necessarily our favorite thing to do.
yeah, I mean, if you watch it and you see what he does on a daily basis, it's really
It's just like
simple.
100% like creation, like his entire day. It
Yeah.
seems, you know, like he's able to just like express himself through, you know, any means of art, which is really cool. But I guess we get on to the next two and stop rambling about this. Yeah, we'll play it and talk about it. I guess we don't need to go into it right now.
Doesn't matter if we've been down. Nothing's later than it is now. And you're feeling like the motion to the bottom of the ocean. Getting lifted in the basement where we all become the same thing. Always talk like you could get this. In the city acting reckless. Doesn't matter if you've been down. Nothing's later than it is now. I can see through my projections. Getting high off your possession. Looking pretty, looking vacant. When we all become the same thing. In the city acting reckless. Don't know when to stop. we shouldn't. You did your best to change my mind, but couldn't. But I tried to let it go. It was hard to pretend the one that I loved and do me wrong. Don't beg for love. The truth will set you free. I won't beg for love. I'll be fine. You couldn't spend the night alone. Said come over, you feel right at home. Then you switch it on me. You play me like a xylophone while I sat there waiting by the phone. Still I tried to let it go. It was hard to pretend the one that I loved and do me wrong. Don't beg for love. The truth has set me free. No, I won't beg for love. I'll be fine. Some honesty for your eyes, girl. Some honesty for that us, yeah. It's time for you to make a move. I've been trying to keep my cool. After all the shit you put me through. After all the shit you put me through. Don't beg for love. The truth will set you free. I won't beg for love. I'll be fine.
I guess right now is a good time to get back into, I think, primarily episode 1 topic of what we're drinking. I feel like it was probably episode 1 and then half of
We talked
like a
about
little bit
polar.
of episode 2, but I feel like it should be like an episode-ly topic. Like I love drinks. So what are
Yeah.
you drinking?
Right now, I'm drinking some Miller High Life because I'm
Bottled from Leeway.
Lee's Foodway. Shout out to Lee if you're listening.
I hope he does. Yeah, I'm drinking some seltzer. Canada Dry, raspberry, some lemon.
Fancy.
Does the job. Those were 2 artists from Toronto. First one was River, and I hope I'm pronouncing both these right, but River Tiber, No Talk, and the second one was Jacoy, Don't Beg. Like I said, both of them are from Toronto, Canada, which is a topic we'll get to, after I, kind of lay this all out. But starting with River Tiber, he is either 26 or 27-year-old. I couldn't find the exact age. Guy named Tommy Paxton Beasley. He did some work with Bad Bad Not Good, which we've had on the episode before. And the song that we played, No Talk, was actually turned into No Tellin' on Drake's If You're Reading This mixtape. I'm not sure if many people know that. I'm really big into like samples and just like finding out what samples in what song. And
You're really big into Drake.
yeah. That's true, but yeah, I mean, that's one thing I didn't know. It kind of surprised me when I was looking through all of his music, because originally I was gonna put on the song West, which was obviously sampled in SZA's new song Broken Clocks, but then I eventually found this one, and I liked it in terms of like the placement in the episode and everything. So yeah, and then the second one, like I said, was Jacoy Don't Beg, and he is also from Toronto, Canada, and this is on the Foreign Waters EP. Different styles, obviously. I don't think they're necessarily the same, quote, genre, But one thing I did want to talk about was music cities, and I know we kind of touched on this when we talked on the first couple episodes of, or one of the first couple episodes about Philadelphia and how the music scene, especially within punk, is really prominent here. And by chance, I actually helped my sister's friend out with this project that was on like the music scene down here too. So it definitely is, a hot topic, I guess. For everyone, whether you're involved or not, I think it's pretty clear that down here is a big, music city. I say down here, but Philadelphia is a big music city, in both hip hop, and rap and everything, and that's clear with Meek and PNB, and Core and everyone who's coming out of here, and then obviously with modern baseball, I know that the Wonder Years is probably. I mean, are they?
They're tech. Well, it's iffy because like a lot of people will consider like Doylestown, Philly.
Okay.
You got like Balance and Composure
Yeah,
and Circus
yeah.
Survive. So that's like.
But regardless,
Stretch.
it's a big. Even if you're not directly from here, like I guess modern baseball wasn't a lot of like the college
like
bands.
Southeast Philly.
Yeah,
or
it's a-
Southeast PA.
It's a
basically.
place that will, if you're good, will definitely boost you up. So I did a little bit of research and found a few articles just talking about like the best music cities, and a few of them. I mean, obviously Nashville is like a big one. Obviously prominently country music. New Orleans, Austin, Texas, New York. That's obvious. Las Vegas, Chicago. Just a few. I don't want to keep rambling on. You can go look it up. But I don't know. Do you think that there's something in these cities like specifically that makes them so good? Because I guess being from the Lehigh Valley specifically, Northampton, Bethlehem, those type of places, not a lot of people, and especially not a lot of popular bands, and I'm not gonna name drop or anything, but I know of a few bands who did get somewhat popular and don't want to place themselves, don't want to say that that's where they're from. I don't blame them, especially if you're traveling up here all the time, for shows and whatever. It makes sense. You're from here, this is, your origin or whatever. But do you think that there's something specifically in these cities that makes them so, good, for lack of a better word?
To be honest, not really. I think it's like the few that you named, like L.A., Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
Nashville, things like that. I think it's just because of how highly populated those cities are. So
Yeah.
naturally, they're gonna have like a big music presence just because there's so many damn people.
Yeah, absolutely. That
I
does.
mean,
I mean, that
obviously-
does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
no
obviously-
small town is gonna have a big reach.
There are some exceptions with like certain genres being prominent in specific cities. Like the first thing that came to my mind was Nashville with like country music,
Mm-hmm.
just because of its location.
L.A. with rap.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one thing, and this could be taken in a few ways, is just like participation. Whether it's, and like you said, this a lot of times comes with, people actually being located, like being from there and being around them, like big cities. But whether it's people participating in actually making music and playing these shows or whatever, or people coming out to the shows or buying the albums or whatever, a lot of it has to do with participation. And I feel like that kind of could fall under like the mob mentality of like, a lot of times, and this is unfortunate, but a lot of times people only do things when they see other people doing it. And I feel like in a small town, a lot of people wait on someone else to say, oh, this band is good, or, come see this band with me or something, and don't want to, be that first person or second person or whatever to really like,
take a chance on them.
yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting subject because, and like I said, being from a small town, you kind of see these things from the other side. Or I guess I should say, being from a small town and now living in a big music city. I think it was Philadelphia, and I probably said this on another episode, was voted like the best punk city in America in 2015 or 2016 or something. So having sort of these two extremes, you kind of see how everything works. And I don't know. Like I said, I think it's kind of interesting because of just how everyone operates and how the mindset kind of changes when you're in a new place like this. How at home people won't necessarily stay for the whole show, but down here people love staying for the whole show. And I'm not saying that's how it is at every place or for every genre or whatever, but the places I've been, you know, the majority of the shows I've been to do have that there. But yeah, and obviously the point we didn't get to where both of these guys are from Toronto, and Toronto is like a very, I would say up and coming, but I don't think it's up and coming. I think it just is.
It just is.
Yeah. Back when, I was doing.
It is now, but 10 years ago, it probably wasn't.
When I was doing like trying to book a tour, I was like reading up on the best cities and everything, and people said that Toronto is like the best place, like especially for, quote like unknown musicians, that Toronto is really good because of how many places they have, and
It's also a very clean city.
see, I've never been there, so I don't know.
I haven't been there in about I don't even know, like 10 years, but I remember when I was there. It's a beautiful place.
But there's a lot. I mean, we've had so many, come up, and I think the obvious thing is just like OVO, and I don't want to get into it because I know, ever since I told you earlier that I had to listen to some Drake, kind of been on me. But I feel like a lot of it, and I'm not saying that this is all him, but a lot of it has to do with him, and obviously the things he's, done in terms of just like exposure. I think it did put a light on that city, and I think that with all these cities, you do need that, core, 5 to 10 musicians, or even less, that really shine a light on that city for people to start taking note. But yeah, I mean, those two songs are, obviously they wouldn't be on here if I didn't like them, and I feel like there's a lot of talent with those two guys. So we'll get into the next two. I guess since we didn't do it before, we'll kind of lay it out now. This is a mixture right now of me and you. So first one is Steve Lacy. The song's called Atomic Vomit. We've had him on here before. I don't think there's too much to say that either you don't know or that I haven't said, but young, he's probably, 2021, if not younger, and he has a lot of cool things going for him. I seen him in concert with my little sister, and he definitely had a fan base. He had a lot of people that really wanted to see him.
Was he the one you said produced the Internet album?
So he had a hand in producing it, and he also did one of the, and this was the one thing, and now of course I can't remember it again, but he did the one new song on Kendrick's album too. He has a specific style which you could kind of pick out. So yeah, if you start listening to him, or you already listened to him, you could tell the things that, now and now and in the future, the things he does. So yeah, you could go into your song.
So after Steve Lacy, we're going to play a song called Matrimony by a group called Tennis. They just came out with an album in March. It's called Yours Conditionally. I just found out about them this year right after this album dropped. The group is made up of 2 people, and they are husband and wife.
That's interesting.
I hate the phrase goals, but if I ever had to use it, this would probably be a perfect instance, because like that's just pretty damn awesome. Like that's what you do for a living, and it's with the person you're married to. Which guess,
could be either really good or really bad. I guess,
like depending. If it works out well, like that's like.
Then that's goals.
It can either end really, really well or really, really bad, depending on how it goes. But they met each other like in college. They went to school in like Colorado or something, and I was reading up on them a little bit. I guess what they use for their inspiration when they're writing albums is they'll go on sailing expeditions. Like apparently after they graduated from,
they'll just go and sail.
They went to like UC Boulder, I think. And I think after they graduated, they like treated themselves to like a sailing trip, like all down the west coast of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And then like after that, they decided to like start this project.
A ton of inspiration.
Yeah, and then before this last album came out, apparently they went and sailed like the East Coast or something to gain inspiration for the album, for this new album.
Interesting.
And also, if you go look up the album artwork, when I first saw it, I thought it's like it turns out it's them too.
But I think I remember it just like looks.
They look. I've
like
seen
70s.
Yeah,
like,
I've seen other pictures of them, and they look like normal people. But when I saw that picture, I was like, "Oh, that's probably like someone's parents or something that they used as that artwork." Like, oh, that's a cool picture. They just found like an old, because it has like that orange tint to it.
Yeah, the hue.
Yeah, that you see in like the '80s disposable cameras.
The orange brown kind of, yeah.
And then I was like, "Oh shit, that's actually them." But they don't look like that all the time, apparently. But still,
Alright.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Pulled up to the outing and we off the loud. Feeling good, looking good, they said they fuck with my style. I kinda smell, sat on the couch and then I pulled out my phone. See a text from my mom asking, well, will I be home? Probably 3, I don't know, that shit is always a no. I heard a girl, she said, excuse me, boy, I like you cologne. 5 things, you tryna smash, I'm tryna get you alone. You know I'm kidding, would've said it, but was just too gone.
Haven't got the time for vain excuses. Let me lead you to the cool spring bubble, and that we linger till we feel like Parted lips instead of paper cups. Blonde lashes curling on your cheek. Hide your gaze so I won't catch you looking at me. Spreading out into the tiny spaces, emanating from your sweet embraces. But I feel your burning look. Oh my God, it feels so good. Oh yeah.
Okay. We're back. I just wanted to get into a quick little thing about Steve Lacy. I don't want to take up too much time, but he on his Dark Red, I think that's what it's called. Oh no, the Steve Lacy EP. I don't know. The one he just came out with. He recorded it all on his iPhone. I think with GarageBand. I watched a thing on it, but I'm assuming it was GarageBand. Whether it's a fact or a question, I just want to know what you think about it.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely not something.
I mean,
I can do.
obviously, I'm assuming
It's cool.
It
like,
went through
it's cool
other
that-
things to
yeah.
get, mix and mastering, whatever. But recording wise, he apparently did do it on his iPhone.
taking advantage of your resources.
Yeah.
Like, that's the cool part about it.
Which I think now is, because like a few years ago, like when there wasn't much, if someone, like it's like a handheld computer, like in all honesty, like
Yeah.
I still remember when you couldn't do jack shit on your, flip phone. So if I would have had that a few years ago, obviously I guess sort of going back to the whole creativity thing, it's kind of, what you do with that creativity that sets you apart. But I don't know. A lot of people are finding out about it now after the whole little like mini documentary came out about him doing it. But I thought it was a pretty cool thing because I'm sure he does it, more than just on that one EP. So I'm not sure about this song, but
It also goes back to like how easily accessible everything is, which we talked
Yeah.
about in a different episode. Like, doing it on your iPhone literally shows that like if you want to do it that bad,
do it.
pretty much anyone can do it
Absolutely.
if you have a smartphone.
Yeah.
But who doesn't?
All right. Yeah, it's you now.
So how many songs we have left? 3. Well, the last 3 are mine, the ones that I picked. So the next one is by a guy who goes by the name of The Caretaker. His real name is James Kirby. He's from the UK. He has a couple different personas that he releases music under. This one's called The Caretaker. He's been making music with it since like the year 2000. But I just found out about him like 2 years ago, or 2 weeks ago. But he's, like I said,
You should have just kept it.
anyway.
Yeah.
I found out about him through the YouTube machine. The whole like recommended thing.
Which is pretty cool.
And I read up on like why he does what he does. So basically, his music is samples of like 30s ballroom music, I guess is the best way to put it, and he'll like loop it.
Loop it and run it
And-
through a lot of effects.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
just be like
Very
spaced
distinct.
out.
Yeah.
But like I said, he's called The Caretaker, so his inspiration turns out to be it's from the movie The Shining. If you've never seen it, well, that's too damn bad because it's arguably
If you haven't seen it, you've heard of it, so.
because there's I won't spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, but pretty much everyone's seen it. But there's a scene where the main character goes into this room and there's all these people dressed up in fancy clothes and there's this ballroom music playing in the background and they call him the caretaker, and but so that scene and the music associated with it is what coined this idea in James Kirby's head. So he's got, if you go on his Bandcamp page, unfortunately he doesn't have his stuff on Spotify. You can find it on YouTube all over the place and Bandcamp. He's kind of got like a cult following per se, but he has a lot of albums, and he's currently in the process of releasing like a 3-year-long music project. So he already announced that his project, The Caretaker, is coming to an end in 2019. And to kind of bow out, he's releasing 6 albums. He's calling them stages. 2 of them have come out already, so it's going to be 2 every year. So there's 1 more coming out at the end of this year, and then there will be 3 more after that between now and 2019. And it's kind of got he's got a cool idea and like ideology behind the whole driving force of what his music revolves around. So for this new project that he's doing, he decided that he is going to give the caretaker, the person, the name of this project, has been diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that. Now, the guy who's behind it all doesn't actually have the disease himself, but he just, fictitiously gave the caretaker this disease. And so in the form of music, he's kind of documenting this progression into losing all of your memory through the course of 6 albums. And when I first found out about that, I sat there and I was like trying to revolve my head around that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like doing that in one album would be really cool, but him being like physically capable of being able to stretch that out over such a long period of time is pretty insane. And like just the fact of like coming up with that idea is so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I guess whoever listening doesn't know, but when you show me them, or him rather, it was like, very interesting to me. Because I remember you starting it off with saying that he has like, X amount of albums coming out over the next, and then even on his Bandcamp, it kind of lists them out until whatever in 2019, right?
Yeah.
So it is pretty interesting how someone could do that, and
I think
I'm not sure if he has them done or what, but just like keeping on schedule is always like
the crazy part to me is just like the planning part.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're literally planning out your projects X many years in advance.
Yeah.
And like sticking to that and coming up with this elaborate plan on how it's all going to unfold is just pretty insane.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll play it for you guys just because it would be stupid to talk about it and not play it. It's definitely an acquired taste, I guess. It's like good background music,
yeah. I think it's sort of to the point of like what you like often, which I notice is like things that really make you like think and kind of create your own, stories behind and like try to figure out, because it's something that is so different than anything you've heard. Like it almost doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So it's something that you could kind of, create your own like storyline and, what you think the mood is and everything. It's definitely something interesting, like I said. That's my take on it. I love it. I mean, I've played it for a few people now, and I know you've showed, other than me, I know you showed a few people. So
my brother actually texted me this morning. I showed it to him about a week ago, and he was like, "Yeah, I listened to his first 2 albums, and they're really cool."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Dude, you gotta listen to all of them. Like, once you find out that you like it, you gotta listen to all of it. It's all good."
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But like I said, it's something that's not for everyone. But if you like it, there's a lot of it to listen to.
Yeah.
So after that, we are going to play a song by a lady she goes by the name of Santa Gold. She used to be, now, I was confused. She used to be called Santo Gold, but sometime along the way, she like changed the O to an I, or vice versa. I don't know. But I don't know much about her. But all I do know is that she's from Philly. She grew up in Philly, which is cool.
Okay.
And she gets a lot of like comparisons to MIA, which
actually listening to the song and now thinking about it, yeah, I understand that.
This is the only song I know by her. Apparently it was like her first single off her very first album, and it just so happened to like do well enough for her to make a living off of this.
Mm-hmm.
But
cool.
Yeah.
Or you want to just go into them?
Yeah. Santa Gold. I want to talk a little bit briefly about how I found out about this song. This was on the soundtrack of NHL '08,
That's
which
sick.
would, catch most people by surprise, probably. So I was thinking about this today, like, man, the NHL soundtracks used to be so good. Like, I think the only...
I think a lot of sports game soundtracks used to be like really
used
good.
to be.
Yeah.
They're the key
Yeah.
words. I think, I don't know what happened along the way, but I think, like, EA somewhere, like,
started
being bitches. Mm-hmm. And you're like, damn, we don't like that shit.
Yeah, we don't fuck with EA Sports anymore.
No. Fuck EA Sports. No, I think the only NHL game I don't own is, like, 2005. And that was when they had, like, the lockout, so that makes sense. But, yeah, from, like, 2000 to, like, 2007, the soundtracks were so good. And then there was this one. And yeah, I found out about this song through NHL '08.
Interesting.
If you think about it, like, this song probably doesn't remind you of the sport of hockey.
Not at all. But I can't imagine it on an EA game. Like like just knowing what's on those type of games.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, like, I don't know.
So spinning off of this, I want to talk about ways that you used to be able to find out about music compared to today.
Okay.
And since sticking to what I started with talking about NHL '08, we'll start with video games. The first thing that comes to mind for me is Tony Hawk, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games.
Literally, absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I'm sure you could find like hundreds of articles on the internet of people raving about like how important those games were to like, because no matter like when those came out, we were probably like what, like 8 years old.
Yeah,
in like their prime.
Mm-hmm.
And because of those games, we were exposed to so much shit that we normally wouldn't be exposed to like much later in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
they taught lessons. Like,
shout out to Tony Hawk, dude.
No, because and I know it's a corny name, but there's this one on Tony Hawk Underground, and I think it was 2.
Okay.
Frog 1 was his name, and the song was called Blah Blah.
Yeah.
I still to this day know like every word to it because you could go into the settings and like adjust what songs you wanted to play and not.
Yeah.
So I would only have a few songs, and that would be one. That one was like. So shout out to Frog 1. I'm not sure what. I know way back when we moved in here, back when we had the whole living room set up and everything, I was out there literally watching just a walkthrough of Tony Hawk Underground 2.
That's so
and then I was like, oh, fuck, Frog 1. So I went and I looked it up. And I mean, it's still just like a song that, I could just...
Dude, I'm not going to front. I still do that too. Like, you can find playlists that people make on YouTube. And it's like a playlist of the NHL like 2006 soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I'll go through that and I'll be like, holy
and
shit, I remember this.
Yeah.
Man. Like, it's such like a nostalgic road trip.
Exactly.
But other than like video games, the main one, besides like the internet now, there's also TV. And the big 2 powerhouses that I think of are obviously MTV and VH1. One like specific memory I have growing up, I remember like in the morning I'd be getting ready for school. I'd be in like 4th grade. My mom would turn on the TV in the morning because she would take me to the bus stop, and then she'd go to work after I got on the bus. She'd turn on VH1 and fucking pop-up video would be on. Do you remember that shit?
Yes, yo.
Pop-up video was so
with
damn
the facts.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like the theme was literally like bubbles.
Yeah.
And I looked it up. The original run was from 96 2002 to 2002. And apparently they came with like a revival in 2011.
Yeah, I think I remember.
Well, you know how they have like the VH1 Classic channel?
Yeah.
And people were like, fuck that, like, leave it where it was, So, yeah, there'd be like, well, if you've never seen it before, you missed out. A part of your childhood is missing. But there'd be like little bubbles that would pop up throughout the music video. And it would be like random facts about the artist or, like the production of the music video or just random shit.
Yeah,
so that was cool.
It had all kind of
that
good...
Was sick.
Yeah. Maybe that's what like inspired my, what's a fucking word for it? My interest in like just researching everything about songs, from who produced it to what samples are in it to what was used in production and everything. Like that told you a lot of shit. Who was dating who at the time, and fucking like where they lived, and like
it was almost
fucking rumor shit.
It was
everything.
almost like live commentary.
Yeah. That was
while the music video, because like one, you get to hear the song, you get to see the video that they made for it, and you get to know all about that.
And it would tell you all types of shit, like this video took like 2 days to do, and then, did it this. Yeah, that was so sick.
And then you look at like MTV and VH1 now, like obviously these shows still aren't on TV, and it's just fucking like reality TV shit, and I can't stand it.
I think that, and this is kind of a point when you first mentioned that I wanted to make, was I feel like there was sort of like an equal shift when the internet became super prominent. That music culture sort of shifted onto the internet, and then the TV sort of shifted, like you said, into reality and shit like that. Which is funny because earlier you said that you found Caretaker off the recommended thing, and it's just like, it's so odd when you think about that, like a website like filtered what you listened to and recommended you an artist that you think. And I mean, we even do that with the episode. Like, we'll filter through like the related artists on Spotify sometimes to try to get some inspiration. And it's crazy when you think about that, because I remember the days where I was given a fucking Limp Bizkit CD, and that was my shit for 3 months. Like, I didn't have, like, obviously I had other CDs, but that I already did the same thing to. Like, you listen to it over and over, and then you have the jukebox, the fucking beatbox, boombox, yeah. And you know, get the fucking,
man. When you get a new CD, you play the shit out of it.
Exactly, and that's the thing now, is I feel like, and I guess that's what, and not to sound like fucking saints, but I think that's what we're trying to do with this, is that there's a lot of music out there, and that's why I try. And we had a brief conversation that people love to show other people music but hate to listen to it.
I'm 100% guilty of
I think we're all somewhat guilty. But
like, I've realized throughout like the past year or so, like I kind of had this self-realization. I'm like, man, like it's kind of not that cool to like force your taste on other people, because like I really hate when people do it to me. Like, I'm not trying to be like an asshole, but like 9 out of 10 times when someone recommends something to me that I've never heard before, I don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know. Maybe it's just the way I am, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other people out there that are the same way. But I don't know. I just kind of like to find out about stuff naturally.
Yeah. And do you think that is because, so you think about like way back, and it was like your mom would turn on the TV. You only had 2 options max. You could either turn on MTV or fucking VH1. You know, like you only had those 2, or even 1 fucking option, you know, at that time. Where if you wanted to listen to music at that time, like if something came on and you never heard of it, or it's not your type of thing, like that's what you would have to, you'd either choose to listen to it or not listen to it, you know. But now it's like you could go on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, whatever, and listen. They got thousands of artists on there, you know.
Yeah, there's so much freedom to choose now. And like, while there is so much like positive to note, and there's so many good things for people, like artists, to potentially gain out of that, it also can be very overwhelming for like a normal listener. Like, you're trying to find something, and there's just so much shit that pops in front of your face that you can listen to, and you're like, oh well, what do I do first?
Absolutely.
But back in the day, like when it was just MTV and VH1 for the most part, like, you know, it was an episode, and they had all these songs already picked out. Like, you either listen to it or you change the fucking channel. Yeah,
and mind you, actual physical copies. You know, not like MP3s, not like you could cycle through this. Like, a lot of times, I mean, I'm not saying I would listen through a whole thing, but it's not like you would put a CD in your boombox, or you put a CD in your car and you would skip through and whatever. Like, a lot of times you would turn that shit on from beginning to end and listen to it.
Yeah, that's also the beauty of like the resurgence of vinyl.
Yeah,
it's tangible. About. Like, you know, you're not gonna skip a track on it.
Yeah,
you know, you're going through the whole A side of it.
Exactly.
You know, but so another video game reference I wanted to make were the Guitar Hero and Rock Band games. Which if you didn't play those at any point in your life, you're kidding yourself. Everyone did it.
Is there anyone? Like, truly.
And if you didn't, go buy one for like $20.
You probably found them for free now.
Yeah. I found out about so much cool shit from those games. Like, a lot of them are like, like classic songs that you've heard so many times, but at the same time, there's just other random shit that they picked because it just fits perfectly.
Yeah.
And then, so we mostly talked about VH1 with pop-up video, but MTV is kind of like, I would say that they're above VH1. I mean, for a while, like, they kind of like, obviously they're like the main two, like butting heads and stuff, but I would probably still put MTV at the top. And I remember, well, TRL was through MTV, which I didn't know. And TRL was a big thing because it was kind of like a live show, and they'd have like guests on it, and they'd be like the live audience or whatever. But specific story, MTV, I don't remember if it was Friday nights or Saturday nights, but they'd have this top 20 video countdown thing.
Yeah.
VH1 had the same thing. They just copied each other. But it would be like the top 20 like most popular songs at that time. And they'd play all their music videos. It'd be like an hour-long episode on MTV. And I remember, whether it was Friday or Saturday night, my parents, if they weren't home, they'd go out somewhere. It'd be me and my brother. My neighbor would come over. Like, at the time, I was probably in like 6th grade. So my brother was like in 11th or 12th grade. You'd have our neighbor over, who was also my brother's age, and some of his friends. Dude, my parents weren't home. We would just crank the TV up and listen to MTV Top 20 Video Countdown. And this was like 2004. So all the songs that were on it were like My Chemical Romance and like Taking Back Sunday and shit. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I was probably in like 6th grade, and like your average 6th grader wouldn't be interested in that stuff or find out about it until much later.
Yeah.
But because of that, well, partially because of my brother, but also partially because of that being on TV, I got access to it at a much earlier age.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't know. We're not trying to sound. We're not that old. We're not trying to sound old either. But like back like 10 years ago,
it was
ways of discovering music were so much like, they were just so much better.
Yeah.
It was more satisfying. Yeah, like it was just natural. It would just pop up in front of you. Absolutely. Whereas now, you can literally go onto one app on your computer or your phone, and the options are limitless.
Yeah.
So the last song is by a lady called Sharon Van Etten. Well, it ties into this idea.
Okay.
Because I also found out about this because of some other form of media. So this song is on season 3 of Twin Peaks. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Right. It kind of relates to, finding out about something through something else. It's like, especially like movie soundtracks, like you can find out about something through them. But
right.
So before we end it and before we go into the last song, there's a couple questions I want to ask Dom, and I'm going to answer them myself. These are questions I wanted to ask last episode, but just completely forgot about doing. So we are over the halfway hump of 2017 now.
Which is wild, just in itself.
And we also were last episode too. Last episode was like right
at
the halfway point. So I want to ask you, so far, we're halfway through 2017. Not to put you on the spot, but what do you think your favorite albums are so far that have come out this year?
I still think Amir Obey, and that was from, I think, the first and second episode. I don't see anyone beating that album for me now. None of the Clocks Work. I think that's what the album name is. Switch up his style on this album. Just something that came at the right time for me. It's one of those things that the album dropped with the mood that I would take from it at the right time when I was in that sort of mind state. And like I said, I don't see anything beating that. Let me look through my Spotify because I know I'll probably miss something and then want to come back, next week. So the Party Next Door Colors 2 album, again, I know you're not too big of a fan of that. style of music, but I think it's some of his best work. I guess this is sort of why I stopped doing like best of year things, is because it's not always what came out that year, but it's what I found that year. I found this guy named Ivan Av, and he's a rapper from. If something's Norwegian, then it's
Norwegian?
yeah. Then what is that?
Norway?
Norway. Fucking A. I could not think of it.
What the hell, dude?
So thank God I'm still in school, right? From Norway, I think. But his work is really good. Obviously, SZA, Lana Del Rey's new tracks with ASAP, I really enjoy. The things to come out, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of his music, but a big fan of just him in general. Tyler, the Creator, I think he's a very underrated aspect of like pop culture now, and I think that'll be realized, in the upcoming years. But I know he has an album coming out, and he did everything with that first fashion show and everything. So I'm excited to see what and if he does anything big this year. And then the rest of the things with Frank Ocean, he was on a roll there for a little bit, dropping tracks on his Blonded Radio. But I'm excited to see if something comes out from him, because I don't think I've ever heard something I absolutely hate from him.
He's unpredictable. You never know he's going to come out with anything. So, favorite albums so far this year from me, the ones that come to mind, I think I've all mentioned in previous episodes. One of them is Rocket by Alex G. Another one is Windswept by Johnny Jewel. We had one song off his album on a previous episode. Another one is by the band 68. The front man of that album was in The Chariot and Norma Jean. Their new album's called Two Parts Viper. For a two-piece band, they fucking rip.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
It's amazing, the stuff they can do with only two people. And then the other one that comes to mind for me is At the Drive-In. New album is called Inter Alia. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's their first album since the year 2000. And just to have 17 years pass by and to recapture your old sound perfectly is amazing. So I'm really digging that one. So to tie into the next question, whether it's something new or old, just recently, within the past few weeks, what have you been listening to?
I guess I sort of ruined this question with trying to change up last question. Ivan Ave, Party Next Door, and Amir Obey. I think those are, three. And obviously, I mean, I like to bounce around between, new and old things. So obviously that Caretaker guy I've been into listening to. And like I said, Lana's new stuff I've really enjoyed. Okay.
So would you say that you go through like just random phases, like a few weeks, and then it's on to something else?
I don't think it's ever on to something else. I just think I'll put that on the back burner for now, and then go do something else. Maybe whether it's bringing something back, up from before, or something new drops, and I like to listen to that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it is for me too. It's like revisiting old stuff. Stuff I listened to recently is like old stuff. Like, how they make we always talk about Spotify on here and how great it is. You know how they make like those daily mix things?
Yeah.
They'll make like 6 of them. I mean, each one revolves around like a few different artists.
Okay.
So I went through one of them when I was on the subway to work, and Jane's Addiction popped up, and I was like, man,
oddly enough,
Perry Farrell, that guy's sick.
Word.
Other than that, Faith No More, frontman Mike Patton, crazy dude. And then more recent stuff. You remember, speaking of like TV and like video games being like a source. Yeah. You remember the Jackass movies?
That's not even a question. Yes.
So I've been listening to CKY lately, and the drummer. If you didn't know, the drummer of CKY, Jesse Margera, is brothers with Bam Margera. And in the early CKY movies, or in the early Jackass movies, they'd play CKY songs in them, like before they were famous, and now they are mostly because of that. But CKY just came out with an album like this year, and I listened to it and it's okay. But because of that, I've started to revisit all their old stuff, which I like grew up on, and they just got such a crazy, unique sound, unlike no other. So they're pretty sick. And then other than that, Under Oath. I don't know why, but their whole discography is great. And just recently I started revisiting some of their old albums, and I'm like, damn, dude, they're sick.
Or just because I could see the questions, and I know I kind of fucked 3 up on 1, I'll ask you this question because I kind of already answered it.
Okay.
What are your most anticipated albums of 2017?
Yeah, so it's been a weird year for music. Every year I feel like the list of stuff that I like just gets bigger and bigger. But so far this year, like aside from the 4 I just listed, it drops off steeply. But it's because I've started to realize that, like, for me, my interest 2017 is kind of like heavily weighted in the back end. So I know there's a lot more good stuff that's yet to come. And the main one is Circa Survive. Their new album just got announced a few days ago. It's called The Amulet. Already pre-ordered it. The single Lustration came out. It's fucking great. Other than that, also a band that toured with Circa Survive before, Citizen, As You Please, comes out in October. They came out with a single. Haven't listened to it yet, but their last 2 albums are great. So we talked about them in a previous episode, kind of how their sound changed. And going off of what we were talking about, we talk about our every damn episode, but Lana Del Rey, this comes out next week. I didn't realize it was that soon.
No, me neither.
I'm hyped. Her and A$AP Rocky, like we were talking about this the other day, you wouldn't think that would be a good fit, but it's just perfect.
It worked.
And then Liam Gallagher, who is one of the founding members of Oasis. He's decided to start a solo career. He's come out with 2 singles so far on the new album. I don't think the album has an official release date yet, but it's called As You Were, allegedly. But like I said, there's 2 songs out that are supposed to be on the album now, and they're really good. Plus, Oasis is one of my all-time favorites, so I'm excited for that. And then the last question we also touched on, like, in the first few minutes of the episode. Something that dropped recently that you've been meaning to listen to, but just haven't yet. And for me, it's Vince Staples. Every time I hang out with Jeff, who we had on Two Side 2 episodes ago, every time I see him, he's like, yo, have you listened to it yet? And I'm like, I don't know, I just haven't gotten around. Like, I want to. Like, I do like him, but like going back to what I said earlier, it just kind of has to happen naturally. The digestion phase has to occur naturally. I don't know.
I think I have listened to his album. It's not that I have not, but I do need to listen to it more and just kind of focus on it more. So that I would follow that. And then anything that's, and I hate to be so broad and like again ruin the question, but anything that's came out that I just haven't taken note. I feel like so many times, 6 months after something drops, I'll like find it and be like, how the fuck did I not like notice this?
You're almost like mad at yourself when you let something like that like slip through your hands. Like, man, why didn't I hear about this?
Yeah, so I guess that's something, if you're listening to it at this point, anyone, if you have an album, that we haven't talked about or that you're feeling, let us know. And I know we say it every episode, but, any kind of recommendation helps. I mean, that's sort of the culture that we're, kind of following. This episode especially kind of showed that, the whole Two Side name comes from, me and you and, sort of being the same person with 2 different tastes and a lot of things. And I think we kind of show that through this episode the most, whereas we've been trying to follow like a, common theme for everyone. This one kind of mixed it up a little bit. So not sure if that's a path we'll keep taking. I, obviously do like it because I think it's both clear, but, clear who's is who's, but also pretty interesting, how they could fit together. But no, I mean, if you have any recommendations, whether it's something we've touched on or not, we would, love to hear it. And yeah, I mean, you could go into what's the last song here.
Sharon Van Etten, Twin Peaks, season 3. This one's a good one.
Word. So that's it.
Thank you again.
Yeah, like always. I mean, we should just have like a fucking
A button that we press.
that we hit that says
Pre-recorded.
Thank you if you're at this point for listening.
Shout out to our moms.
Absolutely, dads, anyone that showed us music before. And yeah, episode 7. You know, this was 6. I'm not saying this is 7, but episode 7 will get to you guys on time. Hopefully, mix it up a little bit, and we'll see you then.
Adios.
Hit the ground. The yard I found something I could taste your mouth. Shut the door. Now in the sun tanning. You were so just looking across the sky. Can't remember. I can't recall. No, I can't remember anything at all. He skipped the sunrise, looking across the grass. Said he wanted, and now that I'm every, it's the same. I could mean you were right. Everyone else hasn't a chance. Don't fail me now. Open arms, let's run under, cursing myself at night. Slow, it was 7. I wish it was 7 all night. Tell me when is this over? Choose you out, choose me out when I'm stupid. I don't wanna. Everyone else spells sending me out. Tell me I'm not a child. You someone forget about everyone else. Fall away somehow. To feel